This community is so united, even in the midst of adversity, in the midst of unfortunate controversy from outside forces, and it speaks volumes and it sets a precedent of what this community can achieve even under the most immense of pressure. And I want to thank every single person who came tonight to speak about what they are doing and building on Pulsechain, because we need to understand that with Pulsechain, mass adoption comes with individuals building on the protocol. And as a result of these fine men that are building these projects, we should be respecting them. We should be giving them honesty and integrity. We should be looking at this as an opportunity to expand Pulsechain and not to look at individuals coming into Pulsechain with a sense of disdain. And I find that to still be something that I see not as often as I used to, but we need to be very prudent yet accepting of new projects launching on Pulsechain. And what these fine gentlemen are doing today kind of speaks volumes on that. So I just want to say, guys, be prudent, but also be extremely accepting and open to new projects launching on Pulsechain, because more projects that are successful lead to adoption.
Folks are trying to build and bring together onto this Pulsechain ecosystem, right? This entire chain is not going to be launching empty. It's going to be launching with all of these teams that are working hard to bring something. And you've been a critical part of getting that message out there and bringing awareness to the communities.
It's important to understand that the evolution of ideology in the Hex community is not a negative thing when it accompanies individuals that are looking to create and expand the Hex and Pulsechain ecosystem. Now, of course, there's going to be malevolent actors coming in that will act with a smile and then try to screw you over. There's a fact. That's a fact. That's in every single ecosystem. But if there's 5 projects coming in, let's say, and one of them can be a blockbuster success to bring adoption, we shouldn't look at all 5 of those with complete disdain. We should look at them with caution, but when they prove themselves, that proves the point. And that's exactly why I think it's so crucial that this I still see this petty bickering sometimes over who's building on Pulsechain versus who's investing in another project, or so on and so forth. And I just think that it's very I think it's causing unnecessary divisiveness, especially at a time right now when there's controversy and adversity that's been surrounding this community, and it's unfortunate. So I think that it's very crucial, by all means, to embrace these projects that have shown over the last year, 6 months, that they are legitimate, that they are building, that they are here to expand Pulsechain, and that it's evident that we don't just want a ghost chain, because we will be competing. Pulsechain will be competing with other layer 1 chains that have massive amounts of adoption, that have massive amounts of builders, and to push people away on the basis of this notion of a one-size-fits-all paradigm is just unacceptable, and in my opinion, a dying order.
So what touched me off a little bit was Corey when he was making his pitch about being open-minded. The reason why there's so much energy in both the Pulsechain ecosystem, Pulsex, all the derivatives and companies that have launched or plan to launch on the network, is because 3.5 years ago or 4 years ago, Richard spent probably thousands of hours managing, cultivating the community. Telegram rooms, I was amazed. I was like, does this guy ever freaking sleep? Because you would think that you would be off of his sleep cycle and making some kind of communication. There he would be, or there he'd be making a tweet, or there he'd be doing an 8-hour stream, basically engaging anybody that had any kind of commentary, whether it's positive or negative, he would engage it. So I think a lot of my respect for Richard came from that origin story in those first couple of years. When it comes to a couple of different things, one is Corey was saying about being very open-minded and receptive about people. I've always been hesitant myself, and people know that. You can call me Fudding Jen if you want to, but I was in medicine for a long time. I was decades. And to bring your kid to get some kind of sinus infection kind of treatment, you kind of want to know who the guy is or the girl is that's treating that person. I understand like we're in a weird world where crypto and everybody wants to be anonymous avatars and launch some kind of project after being funded for millions of dollars and basically just be socially accountable to the Twitter, hopefully updating on what's going on. I understand that to a degree, but like most of my history in business has been with people. And so part of my interest in the community growth over the past 3.5 years and wants to staunch about Hex the product or about the founder is because of that accountability. I love that about it. Now, what was great was challenge and great was I went through all this SEC stuff that's been commented about. I went through all this in 2018 and 19. And that's one of the reasons why I participated so strongly in Hex, is because it was different than a different project I used to be part of. And I was one of the core community people there, the most engaged as far as all the different origin stories of 17 into 18 into 19. And that was actually a company that was based in the United States, publicly accountable. The founder and so forth was, appropriate LinkedIn. I visited their offices. I participated in a lot of different stuff, Seattle blockchain back in 2018 and so forth. And that guy dicked over the entire community, right? Planning to launch something that didn't happen. What I loved about Hex, and again, I engaged a lot. I mean, like I was subpoenaed. I had to do testimony, all kinds of stuff because I was subpoenaed. And so I kind of know what the process was like because I went through it in 2018 and 19. And then when some people have heard some of my origin story about how I first learned about Richard. I learned about Richard because of Crypto Beatles, Rob Beatles. And he used to have a very popular YouTube channel. He engaged a lot of people in Silicon Valley, and he was a personal friend. And I reached out to him and said, what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm getting these letters and I'm a known person. And what is this process? So I went through this stuff in the past. And what I am happy about, especially all the people that have seemed to have spoken today, is that they've been public figures. They have, for the most part, been engaged on YouTube, been engaged in Twitter spaces. They seem to have reputation and knowledge base that they're sharing. And they also have this entrepreneurial drive that I love. I love it. I love it. I am so enthusiastic about Pulsechain and Pulsex when it launches and all the amazing projects that can come, which will be gems for sure, some. But a lot of them are going to go through the same process, in my opinion. And Richard has said this as well. It's reasonable to be enthusiastic, but like the vetting process of human beings is like 50,000 years of history. If I can't see your eyes, if I can't participate in the conversation, and basically you have to pass the sniff test, I'm not participating. Me personally, I'm not putting my brand. We have years and years and years as OGs, especially in this thing, years of time, tens of thousands of hours of participating in this community growth. And I do not want that sacrificed because we want to be open to something participating on Pulsechain that might be great. Richard invested his time and his money into launching a complete product. This was especially after the ICO craze of 17 into 18 and all that kind of prepaid bullshit. So like I really hope that a lot of the people in this space or that listen and replay consider your future and your future brand and being able to stand up to the scrutiny of government or community or whatever by having integrity yourself. I'm willing to support a lot of the projects that I heard today. I really do like a lot of the projects. I do want to see their code happen and make sure that I'm not threatening people that come after me by my approval, particularly, or Rags or Walrus or anybody else that's been a public face in this space. It's very, very important to me that the purpose of cryptocurrency to me is more than simply get rich, because I can get rich as a crack dealer and I can get rich doing all kinds of horrible shit to people. But that's not the way that I've built my life so far, and that's not what I want in my future. So I hope that people have the same integrity.
I kind of want to address this because this is honestly the elephant in the room, and I just want to hit it head on here. And this is, the FUD dealing with the SEC as well. A lot of people are curious about that. So what I'm about to say, these are my opinions, not the opinions of my project or any of my team members. So I think it's been established that governmental agencies around the world are typically a thorn in the side of innovation when it comes to crypto advancement. And I also believe it's highly hypocritical that the SEC has the audacity to go after cryptocurrency when the biggest scam ever perpetrated on populations around the world is centralized banking and discretionary monetary policy. In fact, the crypto community is a direct answer to the generational theft that centralized banks perpetuate. So in my opinion, the documents circulating around the community, they seem legitimate to me. That's my opinion, and also the opinion of people that I have spoken to that are more knowledgeable about these types of things than I am. So also in my opinion, I think most people realize that some semblance of this regulatory strong arming was going to occur anyway at some point in the future. There have been no charges filed up until this point, as far as I'm aware. I think this needs to be business as usual for the community and the builders. We have to be okay with things like this happening because it's obviously not the first time it has happened, nor will it be the last time for it to happen with crypto at large. And just because there's a risk, let's say, of a car accident, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to drive my car. Just because there's a risk of salmonella doesn't mean I won't eat food. Well, you won't eat chicken, for example. When you understand what's at stake and you understand why cryptocurrency exists, when government attempts to stifle innovation, it gives us the very fuel and the very reason that we actually need to step on the gas in terms of our development. Other entities in traditional finance operate under this assumption too. And you look at, here's some companies. I wrote down a little list here. So you have these companies have been sued by the SEC. Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Charles Schwab, Wachovia, JP Morgan, UBS, Oppenheimer Funds, cryptocurrency projects, Dragon Chain, XRP, BlockFi, Poloniex, individuals, Steven freaking Seagal, Kim Kardashian. The list goes on and on and on and on. So the risk is always there. And in my opinion, we need to live with the risk and not be intimidated by the risk and not jump to conclusions. So those were my comments on it.
And you're absolutely right. And I think that one of the main things that's happening right now that you bring up very eloquently is that there is so many people trying to convey that they understand SEC law, discussing this on Twitter without actually understanding SEC law. And again, I don't understand SEC law by any means, and I'm not conveying that I do. What I am saying is that this further convolution of attempting to say whether or not this is fake or not really needs to I don't know, I feel like this is becoming an argument on the basis of cognitive dissonance rather than logic and reason, and I think that may be an issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important in this situation to take a step back, just look at what we know. I mean, we're fortunate we know anything at all, right? All we know is there are a handful of people who have reportedly received letters that could or could not be from the SEC. We will never know, right? Like, at the end of the day, these are just letters. This is not an actual court case yet, if it exists at all. And, that's something that these people who receive these subpoena letters will have to figure out and deal with on their own. If they are real, chances are they're probably not going to publicly tell us much about it because they probably won't be able to. So I'm not going to give anyone financial or legal advice in this case, but if I received one of these letters, I would probably look into legal counsel and shut up, at least for about this specific thing. In terms of major things that come out later on that are more real and tangible and can be publicly known, that's a different discussion when that occurs.
Yeah. So, not to go, because I really haven't looked into any of the things with like the SEC letters that actually people got. Like, I didn't spend too much time looking at that. Just in general, as it relates to, just government suppression of people peacefully performing math on the internet and using software on the internet. It's like there's sometimes laws are just like the government, decree that puts people at a major disadvantage. And you saw it in with like, the answer to it was like the civil rights movement, where, it was where the time matched up with like public support and active communities combined with civil disobedience and, really pushing back to kind of sway that public opinion and cause policy to change as a result. And maybe that's the, what we may find ourselves in, is that, as it relates to governments trying to suppress, crypto assets and the people that use them and the people that create them, maybe the community that we have here is that kind of nucleus of, of strength that, maybe we're the oddballs that are the ones that are able to push back, where, if in the event that we are the ones taking on, this type of suppression, then perhaps it's our own civil disobedience that can be the solution. And so that's what I think, compared to, it's like XRP, it's like, do the XRP people really have that in them? Like, do they really have that gumption? And, but I think that the Hexagons do. And so I think that maybe this is like, our the situation is that, maybe it is the Hexagons that need to take this thing on. And we're probably the ones that are most equipped to do it. So that's all I really have to say on that topic, is that, I think that civil disobedience is a major part. It's part of the balance of power. And because we all center around blockchain software, that inherently gives us an advantage. And so that's just kind of my take on the whole situation.
Yeah, I just have like two comments on actually topics that Gary just mentioned. The first one is on SEC. Just a quick reminder that from what I'm aware, is thinking this group of people here talking tonight, none of us are lawyers or having a strong understanding of law. So it would be nice just to refrain from commenting on topics that we're not expert on. I would not comment on things that generally I don't know anything about. And then in general, it's so easy these days for accusing, especially with online social media, to accuse anyone about anything, right? But in general, in most countries, the burden of proof is on the accuser, right? So you need to showcase that someone did something wrong. So I think all this legal system will just sort things out. It's easy just to libel or just publicly say that someone could be doing some wrongdoings, but often the proof is not being brought to the front. And the third thing on the SEC and crypto regulation and the OFAC listing is that I think crypto is a global movement. So even though the US is very influential, it doesn't rule the world, right? And it's often because of the nature of the world and finance and crypto. There's often this kind of a US-centric bias, thinking that everything is going to down just because couple of US regulators are putting things forward, but it doesn't always apply in all across the world. So it's a good thing to remind yourself, right? Staker, for example, is currently registered in France, and we're not subject to the same kind of regulation that you guys have in US, right? And it has some implication on our user base, what we can do, the way we could eventually launch a token, and even if some rules were to change. In France, I'm so passionate, and even the entire team was so passionate about freedom, privacy, security, that we would move the business, right? I would personally move the way I live and move the business to make sure that our users are protected at all times. So that's for the regulation. And the second thing is more on the Pulsechain project. It's just a quick reminder for everybody that most projects fail. That's the nature of project. It has nothing to do with crypto. Most projects fail, right? For many reasons. It could be team reason. It could be product market fit. It could be timing. And so it's really important for anyone launching something new, even though you're very enthusiastic, to realize that there is a non-zero probability that your project will fail. And most projects don't need a token. Uniswap is the biggest example of that, right? It's one of the most popular smart contract platform on Ethereum, launched without token. Most projects don't need sacrifices. Hedron and the Maximus ecosystem are examples of project launching without sacrifices. And then most people launching crypto projects don't have track records of launching successful large-scale businesses or showcasing mastery in design or designing incentive system. So for builders, I would encourage everybody to be the most responsible possible, because the opportunity is huge and nobody wants to, your reputation to be tarnished. It's okay to recognize that sometimes, we're out of updates. So reaching out for people that built something in the past, collaborating with other projects is also often a good strategy to make sure that you're doing things the right way. And for users, please be the most skeptical as possible, because once again, most project fails, most projects don't need a token, and most projects don't need sacrifices. So I don't want to be a joy killer tonight, but these are like realities, and that's my responsibility as a leader, just to remind just the fact.
Yeah, and what's so interesting to me about this community is it's a statistical truth that most blockchain projects fail, but I'm continually impressed with the amount of intelligence and talent a lot of the builders bring to the table. It seems, and this could be confirmation bias, but it seems like we have a relatively unique collection of people. How many other projects or communities have mobile apps with big user bases, or have people willing to put up multiple front ends or analytics sites and all these things? It's hard for me to not sometimes think that we're some kind of unicorn to a degree in the crypto space, and that's probably no indication of future success, but it is something that I see, and it's something that does make me excited for the future of the ecosystem as a whole.
I fully agree with you, Alex. I just have like this nature of being contrarian, and it was just a reminder. I agree with you.
Pulse Lori, go ahead. Or Pulse Sony. I can't see the rest of your name. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you. So first, I just want to state that I detest regulation, and when I think of the regulators coming in, I just think the audacity. But I have a tough question to ask you guys. Some people theorize that perhaps these letters are legitimate. So, we may assume that Richard has been served with a letter like this. Do we see him launching Pulsechain in the face of an active SEC regulation or investigation? I think his lawyers would advise him not to. And then just, they're looking for sources to attack. And they went after the developer for I can't remember the mixer that it's called, but the pending bill that they're working on, they want to bring something up that's really going to give them publicity. And $1.6 billion is a pretty big target. So I just feel like this brings a new sense of urgency that Pulse has to get launched as quick as possible. Because if they bring a case against him, I'm pretty confident his lawyers will tell him not to launch Pulse. I want to know what you guys think about that. And if it's possible, I could be totally wrong. It's just a question that I have.
So there's like 3 levels of speculation along with that question. And I get that that's the question that everybody wants to ask, like, is this incoming? We don't know. Like, we don't have confirmation on what it is the SEC Pro is doing. We don't have confirmation if RH has something specific. We don't have confirmation of who all has them. We don't know what his lawyers would recommend. I don't know what his lawyer's name is. So there's 4 to 5 levels of just speculation stacked on top. So I don't know, and neither does anyone else. The answer is that there's too much investment, too many builders, and too many people here with a similar ethos that regardless of whatever the finalized decision is, building's going to keep happening. So however this thing takes shape in the end, I don't know, and neither does anyone else, but we're going to continue to build, and we'll figure out a way through these things as we always have. There's been multiple other projects that have gone through different types of SEC regulation and still launched successfully. There's been different types that have, again, paid fines. There's almost no point speculating on at this point. The only thing to do for the community is to not be fractured, to understand these things are complicated, and to just keep building. Again, like worrying or being concerned about if they're real and if RH has one, what would his lawyer then say? I understand the question, man, and I've seen you speak before, so hopefully I'm more speaking to the group. I know where you're coming from. There's no point in speculating. It's just time to stay unfractured and keep building.
I think any regulatory body would love the idea of everyone in this room just throwing up their hands, walking away, and stopping any build. That's not going to happen. Body would love the idea of everyone in this room just throwing up their hands, walking away, and stopping any build. That's not going to happen, right? We've got a lot of passion in this room. We've got a lot of time and effort building things that are unique in the cryptosphere, that are helpful in the cryptosphere, and we have to take this thing in stride, right? Whatever direction Pulse Chain goes in the future, one way or another, the things being built in this room are still being built.
Hey, I was actually going to say what kind of Famous was saying in a sense of I'm not worried at all. I've spent the better of 10 plus years in banking compliance. I've dealt with the FBI. I've dealt with Interpol. Hex passes the Howey test. They know it, right? So there's literally no worry there. I see what they're looking for. If anything, I see that our ecosystem and everything that we represent, meaning all of the projects that are being built on it, really reflect like we're trouble for them, right? We're their adversary, right? I'm talking about like legacy markets, the general banking system, like what Rag started saying earlier, where at the end of the day, like we're their competition, right? We're taking money out of their banks, right? So ultimately, if we're going to be a target, we're going to be to some degree, that we're going to have that target on our back because we're doing good, right? If we didn't have a target on our back and we're not going to, get some kind of, or someone's not going to get, some kind of letter from somebody, it means that we're not doing the right thing. So I like the fact that this adversity is coming up. I like the fact that, that people are concerned about it because we're actually doing what we need to do. We're actually doing what has to happen. Regulation, Pulse, while I understand what you're saying when you said like you hate regulation and everything, but I think something that we have to all remember is we want global adoption. We want this massive transformation of the theft from the legacy banking system to be taken away, to stop the whole 9 yards. The only way that that's going to happen is basically DeFi crypto and what we're all doing. And in order for the global adoption to happen that we see happening now, we need a certain amount of regulation. We don't want too much regulation. We don't want too less, because if you have too less, then it's the wild west. Wall Street won't come in on a level that we want them to come in at, right? That's why the VC money really didn't come in on Sacrafice, because there was no guarantee of return off the work of others. So they really couldn't come in on a quote unquote professional level and sacrifice any funds. So when we talk about regulation, they're going to FUD regulation. They're going to use meaning legacy markets, the SEC, the government, everybody, media. They're going to use regulation as a FUDding event to take your tokens, right? They're going to try to scare the hell out of you. They're going to try to tell you, oh, it's all going to come to an end. We're going to regulate it, blah, blah, blah. It's bullshit. It's the same thing China's saying, no more Bitcoin mining every year on an annual basis, like clockwork, right? So just, keep the armor on, keep the blinders on. Everyone just keep moving forward, working together, stay positive best that you can. Realize that all that adversity, they're going to be shooting arrows at us along the path, along the way. But what we're building is exactly what we know what it is. And it is allowing for the general people, the general population of the world to basically get banked and to find the leverage that we need for ourselves, not for them, not for the other side, and to take control of our own finances and take control of everything. So I love the adversity that's happening. Not worried about it at all. If any project outright screws people, then let them get burned. Let them let the markets deal with them. That's one thing I think we're really good at, is let's let the markets handle what it's got to handle. And as we move forward and as this builds and as we all come together, I think we as a community and all of the developers here and all the builders here are probably going to be, and I've said this 1,000 times, the strongest ecosystem in all of crypto. And yes, it is us that will be able to do that cognitive dissonance and be able to stand up against the man and say, no, you're not going to bring this totalitarian, legacy finance system to us anymore. We're going to take control ourselves, and you can't stop us, because we're doing it within the realm of law. We're doing it within the realm of both, whether it's, common law, admiralty law, whatever law you want to think about it. We're not, breaking rules. We're making it right for everybody so we can all participate. And when we're enough, they're not going to be able to stop us, because we're enough people. The ecosystem, as it's starting with 140 plus projects, whether who knows how many of them are going to be here or not, doesn't really matter. It's still exponentially more than any other chain that's ever started before. So we're a group that we're an adversarial group that they've never really dealt with before, and that target on our back is very, very thin compared to the armor that we have. That's all I wanted to say.
Hey everyone, thanks KG. One of the things that first drew me to Hex was its immutability, and with these SEC letters going around, and we saw what happened with Tornado Cash, and it's still functioning flawlessly. That's what we want to build with Win-Win, something which can't be turned off, has no admin keys, is immutable, non-custodial, etc. I think the community's understanding of admin keys has evolved over the last year, and now we understand that some of them are sometimes necessary, for example, in fiat. But in general, being able to have something which the government can't control, because if you paint a Venn diagram and on one side is ethics and the other side is the law, there's a lot of overlap, but it doesn't perfectly overlap. And there's nothing unethical, in my opinion, about Hex. There's nothing unethical about Tornado Cash. It's a tool. You can pick up a knife and chop up some vegetables and cook yourself a dinner, or you can stab yourself with it. Like, these tools, when used properly, they're fantastic tools. I think Hex is one of them. I think Win-Win will be too, and a lot of the other projects that are in here tonight. But that's sort of my take on the whole SEC thing. Like, we need to develop tools which can be used flawlessly forever, and then governments can sort of join the party later.